Thank you for staying with us. You're still watching The Breakfast on Plus TV Africa. Right now, it's time to discuss our second hot topic. Reps approve emergency rule in Rivers State. The House of Representatives have approved President Bola Tinubu'S declaration of a state of emergency in Rivers State, which includes a 6-month suspension of Governor Fubara, his deputy, and all elected members of the Assembly. The decision was made during plenary session on Thursday following a voice vote after the House failed to form a quorum on Wednesday to debate the proclamation. House Leader Professor Julius Ihobere urged his colleagues to support the President's initiative calling for cooperation to address the issues in Rivers State. The emergency rule will only take effect once approved by 2/3 of the both chamber of the National Assembly, which translates to 240 votes in the House and 73 votes in the Senate. During plenary, lawmakers discussed the constitutional requirements for the emergency rule. Several members emphasized the need to verify the quorum before proceeding. Deputy spokesman Philip Agbeshe proposed forming a national mediation committee to help resolve the crisis and bring peace to the state, suggesting that the emergency rule could be shortened if the situation improves. Joining us this morning is Elvis Asia. He's a legal practitioner. Good morning, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me on the program once again.
Thank you. All right. So I think sometime last week we were having a conversation on this, and here we are now. Obviously, emergency rule has been declared by the president in Rivers State. First, I would like to get your take on it, even before we go to the fact that the National Assembly is already putting their stamp on it as well.
What I would say, without hesitation, is that it's a sad day for the country and for democratic governance in Nigeria. It's a sad day for, constitutionalism. Truth of the matter is that the declaration of emergency in Rivers, based on the realities of what's happening in that state today, is unwarranted, it's unconstitutional, and it shouldn't have a place in a democracy. First, for you to declare a state of emergency, the circumstances must exist for that. And if you look at the Constitution, Article 305, I do not believe that the conditions for declaration of state of emergency has arisen in Rivers. What you have in Rivers is disputes between the State House of Assembly and the governor, in respect of which parties went to court, and the Supreme Court has finally laid the dispute to rest by making a decision and giving clear directives on what needed to be done. And from all the information that's available in the public space, Governor has taken steps to abide by the decision of the Supreme Court. And so to use that as a basis, and then the House of Assembly were the ones who appears to be preventing the governor from presenting the budget, as mandated by the decision of the Supreme Court. And a political dispute in that manner shouldn't lead to a declaration of state of emergency. So that is one. On the other hand, what is the security challenge in Rivers that cannot be dealt with by the conventional security apparatus that we have in the country? Don't forget that, even though people say that the governor is the chief executive, is in charge of security, it's just a mere story. We know that by the constitutional arrangement and the laws of this country, federal government controls security in every part of the country, and so the governor is not in control of security, and so I don't see why the legal dispute between the governor and the House would warrant the declaration of emergency. Another point I would like to also make is that, if you look at the entirety of the Nigerian Constitution, the way governors are elected are clearly defined, the way they can leave office are clearly defined, the way members of the House are elected are clearly defined, and also is the way they can, leave office. There's no provision anywhere in the Constitution that empowers the president to suspend, remove, or in any manner truncate the will of the people of Rivers or any part of the country under the guise of the declaration of a state of emergency. Now, if you look at the history of the emergency power, And even the jurisprudence of other countries, where we copied our legal framework from. If you look at it, the whole idea of emergency powers is nothing but to give the government more powers to deal with security situations. And not necessarily, and not to use it as a political tool like we are seeing in Rivers. And if 2 or 3 people have made noise about, burning oil installations, why should that be a basis for education of civil matters? And quite frankly, do we even know who was behind the so-called bombing of oil facilities? Somebody could have done it in order to, somebody who has connections to the federal government could have done it to get his way. Nobody has established that, whatever has happened, the isolated cases, security incident in the Rivers was the handwork of the House of Assembly or the government himself. Anybody could have done that. So it is really very sad, unconstitutional, and I'm really worried for the country, because what stops the president from waking up tomorrow to say that he wants to declare state of emergency on the country and continue in office without in disregard of elections? This is very sad, and I think everywhere many Nigerians needs to look at it and understand the implication of this.
Exactly, and that's even what I was going to ask, the implication of all of this, because I mean, it has started with Rivers State, and in Osun states, they're all also calling, the APC right now is calling for a state of emergency. Now, with that being said, Osun State obviously is being led by the PDP, just like Rivers State. With the president making this declaration, right, that, state of emergency and the National Assembly having to put their stamp of approval on it, is it not whereby they're supposed to, maybe the PDP, because it's an opposition party that rules that state, not the APC, is it not a case, isn't this supposed to be a case whereby the president is supposed to maybe consult with that party and say, okay, who's going to be the leader at this point? Is the president supposed to just make this proclamation, and is a proclamation enough to remove a governor from a state?
The president does not have the power to remove the governor of a state by proclamation, by whatever guise. So the issue of consulting with people, consulting with the political party in order to determine who should lead as a sole administrator doesn't even arise, legally speaking. He doesn't have the power. This is clear impunity. This is rascality of the highest order, and we must call it what it is. This is presidential recklessness. And quite frankly, it just shows that those who are advising the president are probably, they don't understand the implication of this. You are declaring war on the people that you have sworn, to defend. And in defending the people, the first thing you must do is to defend their mandate, to defend their rights, to exercise their franchise the way they want, and to choose whichever political party they want. Now, when you now resort to all this reckless behavior, this rascality and impunity, in order to further your political nest and political agenda, or in order to further the political agenda of any political party, or in your preparation for another election in 2027, it's uncalled for. It's something that we all should be alarmed about. So there's no point about consulting anybody on who should be sole administrator or whatever. He doesn't have the power to do it. And he must be told that, if those who are around him for pecuniary reasons and their benefits are not able to say that, we must all say that. The president doesn't have the power. What he has just done now is unconstitutional, and the endorsement by the National Assembly is another, story entirely. And I'm sure we will get to that point, so that we can, look for the appropriate words, to describe the action of the National Assembly in endorsing this, presidential recklessness. And that's what I would call it. It doesn't have the power at all. It cannot remove anybody. The way to remove a governor is defined by Section 188 of the Constitution, and that is the only way you can. That's the only way you can remove a governor. Nobody else under the Constitution. You can, if you say there is even. I have said that there's no basis for declaration at all. There's no security challenge that is, beyond the ordinary, the conventional powers that the security agencies have in the country to deal with security that exists. Assuming but not considering there was even such a situation, assuming there was even such a situation, you don't have the power to remove the governor. You can empower the security agencies to do their job, but you cannot say you want to remove a democratically elected governor, a democratically elected House of Assembly. This is really a political move, which is, being under the whims and caprices of politicians, either from Rivers State or anywhere. And it has no basis in law. We must, reject it. There is no point talking about consulting anybody on who to appoint. Does he have the power to consult? Does he have the power to remove? He doesn't have the power. You can have an.
So in having to resolve this dispute, what should have been the best possible means?
The issue has already been resolved by the Supreme Court. The issues in Rivers State, the major issues in Rivers State between the House of Assembly and the governor was already resolved. And the governor has, committed himself to complying with that process.
Now, pardon me. The House of Assembly members were proving difficult. Yeah.
Well, I mean, yes, they were proven difficult, and they took the step to impeach the governor, and they have the power to want to do so. Let that process, take its course. That's it. There is really no legal dispute here that warrants the intervention of the federal government by a declaration of emergency. If the House of Assembly, believe that the governor has committed serious gross misconduct that warrants his removal, they have the power to activate the Constitution to try to do so. And and let them try it. Why are we in a hurry to declare of emergency? Is it that we are now saying that they may not be able to succeed because the power of impeachment under the Constitution is not solely at the whims and caprices of the Assembly? The Assembly will need to consult with the Chief Judge, who will have to constitute an independent panel to look at the basis for seeking the removal of a governor. Is it that because they have now seen that it is possible that they will fail at that point, that we are now resorting to this recklessness, this impunity? Let that process go through. If the House of Assembly do not want to see the governor, they want to meet the governor, whatever it is, I'm sure the governor, will know what to do. There are legal process that he could have activated, through the courts. The court is still, the judiciary is still in operation in Rivers State. And the House of Assembly has taken their own, what they believe would be in their best interest, which is impeachment. I'm very quarrel with them taking that step. But let that process go through. You cannot, supplant that process with the declaration of state of emergency that has no bearing, has no legal basis under our law.
I mean, this just feels like chess. It feels like everybody's just playing whatever hand they have. But like I said, PDP rules Rivers State, and one thing that critics have put out there is that the ruling party, which is the APC, is just exploiting loopholes from the Constitution. Do you agree with that?
There's no loophole in the Constitution. There's no loophole here. The Constitution is very clear on the issues that confronts Rivers State today. Let anybody really point out what is the loophole? What is the loophole? The House of Assembly believes that the governor has committed gross misconduct. They have the powers to activate Section 188 in an attempt to remove the governor for that. And they are set that ball rolling by the notice that was issued. So where is the loophole? There's no loophole in the Constitution. The Constitution is very clear on the conditions for declaration of emergency. It's very clear. It's very clear. There's no story about it. And what happens when emergency is declared is also very clear. And the idea of emergency powers, like I already said, is essentially to empower the security agencies to deal with extraordinary security challenge. It is not meant to, because if you look at it, the Constitution says that no part of the country can ever be governed unless in line with the provisions of the Constitution. So you now tell me what provision of the Constitution gives the sole administrator power to administer a state or any part of this country. There's no provision in the Constitution that allows that. If it comes to it and you feel that the House of Assembly is unable to perform its duties, Section 11 is there that gives that responsibility to the National Assembly. You know, why didn't we explore that? Of course, that will not be in the interest of those who want the governor out. That's the truth of the matter. They have seen that in all ramifications, if you correctly apply the Constitution, it will not be in their interest, which is why people have not resorted to this very democratic practice of suspending the governor.
So looking at the National Assembly, who has, obviously put their stamp of approval on this, I mean, it's been said that anything you take to the National Assembly would just be passed. No challenge, nothing whatsoever, just whatever you bring to them, because at the end of the day, they're working in tandem with the government. And in as much as you would expect that there should be separation of powers for the legislature, the judiciary, and the executive, but it seems like the National Assembly or the legislature in this case would just pass whatever is being brought to them. Now, with that being said, what are the implications of this crisis or this state of emergency that has been imposed in Rivers State? If they, finally have that quorum, if they finally have the votes in, and this obviously is cast on stone, what is the implication of this?
Well, I think the point I need to make before talking about the implication is that we all have come to terms in this country with a lacking National Assembly, a National Assembly that is a slave to the executive, a National Assembly that has no voice of its own, a National Assembly that cannot interrogate anything that comes from the president. It is a sad reality that we have come to see in this country. But on this particular issue of emergency declaration, the Constitution is very clear on what you need to approve such a declaration. It's two-thirds majority of the National Assembly. It is not two-thirds majority of the people that are sitting in the National Assembly. It's two-thirds majority of the entire National Assembly. Now, for you to be able to do that, you must do a proper vote count. You cannot, endorse a process that requires full-thirds majority or a specific number of members of the National Assembly. You cannot endorse such a process by a voice vote. It is unconstitutional, it is undemocratic, and it just shows, slavery. Are members of the National Assembly slaves to the president? Do they have a mind of their own? Do they understand their role as legislators? This is really sad. For you to endorse a matter that requires two-thirds with voice votes, it is not unheard of in any democratic part of the world. Let them show me any example of a country where you require two-thirds majority or specific number of members of the parliament, and then you endorse it by a voice vote. The processes in the National Assembly today is not transparent, it is not accountable, and it's a great disservice to the people they are representing. The people from their constituencies have the right to know how members are voting from their constituencies. Today, they are just all hiding under voice vote. Yeah. Anybody can say, "Oh, we didn't know what happened." There's something, We must be able to, interrogate our elected officials from our constituencies. And how do we do that if we cannot determine how they vote? By this voice democratic voting system that APC-led government has entrenched in the last few years in the country. It is unfortunate. And the sad implication is that what has happened now is that the president has been empowered to go outside of the Constitution to achieve his political aim, or the political aim of somebody. In this case, and we have to call a spade, the political agenda of Wike, who has become a political burden to the country, in my view. And so, and what like I was saying earlier, what stops the president from waking up when we conduct election in 2027, and maybe there is fighting in a few places, and he declares an emergency and says he wants to extend his tenure by 6 months in order to deal with that situation, and then he continues to extend it. What stops the president now from, in order to, win a particular state to his political party? People can generate a crisis in that state, and then he declares a state of emergency. I was making the point earlier that nobody has established who was behind the so-called burning of oil facilities in rivers. And it is possible that it was done to achieve what we have seen now. Yeah. Possible. And so what stops the president now from using DSS, and all. We know how powerful government the government is. What stops them from in the middle of the night doing something in any state and then declare a state of emergency in that state in order to take power from the political party that exists there?
Honestly,
this is the danger, and it's the danger for not just the people of Rivers, but for every member of the National Assembly who thinks they are free today. Today is the turn of Rivers. Tomorrow it might be their own turn, either in their state or when they become governor in any state, in another political party that is not controlling the federal government.
Exactly.
So this is the reality, and it's very sad that we're not seeing that. For whatever reason.
The issue now is, this might just set precedent for other things to come. And, like you said, what stops it from going to other states? It might be Rivers today, but another state tomorrow. So I think it's important that we look at this critically, and we definitely need to follow the Constitution. The Constitution is clear, it is concise. We should follow it. Someone cannot just make a proclamation. He's the president. But if the Constitution says that, there must be provisions before a state of emergency should be imposed, then everything needs to follow suit. And if the Supreme Court has already resolved this dispute in Rivers State, then both parties, which is the governor and the members of the House of Assembly, needs to find a way to coexist and make it work. Because at the end of the day, it's the people of Rivers State who are feeling the brunt of it all. And it's quite unfortunate that this is the reality of everything. We just hope that going forward, I don't know what's going to happen, because this has been a developing story for a while, and we're going to keep seeing more things coming out from this case. But we hope that at the end of the day, it turns out good for everybody, the people of Rivers State and Nigeria at large, especially moving ahead with our Constitution. Elvis, we want to say thank you so much for coming. It's been a pleasure having you this morning, sharing your valuable contribution on this topic. Thank you for your time, sir. All right. We've been speaking with Elvis Asia. He's a legal practitioner, and we're just talking about the fact that the House of Assembly, or rather the House of Representatives, the National Assembly, has obviously put a stamp of approval on the emergency rule in Rivers State. This is how much we can take on the show today. Thank you so much for having the breakfast with me. My name is Rome Paulson. I'll see you again on Monday. Have a wonderful weekend. Good morning.